Jeshua, the early years, awakening. Now we begin. Indeed, once again, greeting unto you, beloved and holy children of light divine. In truth, once again I come forth to shower my blessing upon you, and yet I can do nothing more but shower those blessings upon you which you would choose to receive. Therefore, my giving them to you is your giving to yourself. And I do not say that lightly, though indeed it is given in light. For in truth, that which I have given unto you is your own giving to yourself. It must mean that everything I have ever represented to the conscience of mankind is in you now. And that which was once called the Incarnation, or the Word made flesh, when it is said that God came and dwelt among us, that must have been your gift to yourself. How can that be? For you believe that you have perhaps been born in this body for a short time, and if you are lucky, have a good time, then the body will degenerate, and you will experience something called death. And the one that was known as Jeshua ben Joseph is said to have been here some 2,000 years ago. How could that incarnation have been a gift to myself? Well, quite simply, you are not the body, and you are not the personality. What you are transcends all space and time, and all lives that have ever been lived arise within you. And in this drama, this scheme of space and time, even as you've all together as one mind chosen the perception that you are separate from God and therefore separate from one another, so too as you've been the creator of your world and air, you have been the creator of the form of salvation. And every master and every teacher that has come and given you grand words or brought healing to you, or inspired the heart to look beyond its limitation, each and every one of them has but come as a reflection created by the soul you are, to mirror back to the conscious mind the truth that necessarily lies within you. And that truth is not difficult to find. It is not far from you. It is not far from you. Indeed, the kingdom of heaven can be no further than the distance of a single choice. How then to rediscover the truth, to touch the place that some of you believe that I mirrored so perfectly? How could you see the perfection if you did not already know that that perfection is in you? How then to rediscover that truth? Not by striving, not by seeking, not by mastering a plethora of techniques, but by wanting above all things, to become once again the thought of perfect love and form, to be willing to release every perception you have cherished because once upon a time in your long journey you thought it would make you safe or bring you some greater good, to be willing to give each day back to God, to be willing to become innocent, to set aside and imagine what it would be like if in each day you were to set aside every and each perception you held about what reality is, and where you came from, about what your purpose and function is, about what the brother or sister in front of you means. To abide in an innocence and a faith that trusts what appears to be unseen, and be willing to allow that unseen love to guide you moment to moment, to teach you anew until each and every perception that has been created in error has been released as a veil from before your mind, before your heart. And then you will not see what you have created. You will see what you have always been, and you will know that there is no such thing as separation, and time and space cannot be a barrier between minds that are joined in love. To be the thought of love in form is to choose to incarnate Christ. Not to wait for another to do it, not to hope that it has already been done 2,000 years ago so that you can skip around the corners, but rather to choose to allow your life, what you call my life, to be transformed, gently perhaps, a moment at a time, and at times not so gently. You call those major breakthroughs. The only reason feels so major is that the thing you are releasing is something you have been holding on for so long that you couldn't comprehend being without it. And yet it has only been a perception, something so flimsy, so thin that it holds no power and does not distort the light that comes to your soul. But you have looked upon it as something to be cherished and treasured and have made it part of yourself, and have believed that it holds the power to keep you separate from God, or that you have needed it to remain safe in an unsafe world, and that it is most interesting because the perception that you abide in an unsafe world is just not a perception, and it too must be released. Therefore, precious and holy friends, I do say friends, you who were created with me before time is, you are eternal and unbounded. And within you and before you and all around you lies that wisdom that is available to you in every moment and with every decision you believe you must make. But what seems to be so difficult is the habit of the mind that has believed itself to have been separate from God and must make its own way. It must be the grand maker and doer. It must cling to certain perceptions about what life is and how it ought to be lived. That little habit cannot believe that it could be so simple, and yet it is. And there is no one in this room who in this moment cannot be crucified, dead and buried in the mind, resurrected, and ascended to join in perfect union with the mind of God. It is available to you now. And all that is ever asked of you is that you make the simple choice to be at peace, to relinquish, to let go of your striving, your grasping, your anxiety, your fear, your doubt, and therefore to begin, and I mean begin every day, until it becomes the beginning of every moment, to begin in the recognition that in reality, I and my Father are one now, not in the future, not in a distant past that I somehow managed to throw away by accident with the garbage, but now, right here and right now. There is nowhere to go and nothing to achieve save to use the power given unto you to acknowledge, I and my Father are one, and I walk in a safe world, and as I walk, that one walks with me, and I walk only in love, and each step I take takes me into the extension of love, and I choose to think only loving thoughts. And when my mind is given to memories, I choose only loving memories, and I release the rest because everything that has not been loving has been born of illusions of fear. Can you imagine what it would be like to live one day in which each step you take, you feel it, and each thought you think, you witness it, and you are with it? No more idle thoughts about running about in the mind, but you direct them wholly from that place in you that is love. What would it be like to begin from this moment and to allow yourself to recognize that no matter what the circumstance seem to be around you, you hold the power to be the presence of the peace of God? What would it be like to live one day, just one day, in which everyone you thought of, everyone you looked upon, you embraced totally with the love of Christ, and did not let a single perception of your own making boomerang on you, to create in you the illusion of the belief that another could hold the power to change your countenance? What would that be like? And if you can accomplish one day in that manner, rest assured that when you rest your head on the pillow that night, it will be Christ that is going to sleep. One day, without a negative or fearful thought, and then indeed you touch that which is eternal, that which has been within you since before time is, has never been tainted, cannot be taken from you. You touch reality. Now, there have been many that have begun the spiritual path, many that would even seek to follow me, though I prefer that they follow themselves. And when they begin to discover that awakening isn't going to bring great brass bands to play for you, your neighbors might not even notice it. You may not wake up with winning lottery numbers in your head. You may not even transcend what is perceived as illness in the physical body. That just perhaps it is not quite what you thought the journey would be. Many throw in the towel and say, well, there's nothing to all of that. I might as well go back to the way I was. Perhaps the thrill is yet around the corner. When that takes place, remember, it is the voice of the ego that does not want you to awaken. For when you choose to awaken, its purpose has been completed, and you will put it away as a child puts away an old toy now outgrown. Awakening is a simple affair. Being awake is a simple affair. First understand that you are awake now. You are awake now. And there is no one in this room but Christ. Yes, there seems to be the appearance of many bodies, but underneath them, and just behind them, there lies a love that is available to you whenever you choose, a love that throws open the shutters of the heart so wide that you feel your arms could embrace the whole of creation, and you smile no matter what you think or look upon. You cannot help but smile because you have chosen to be awakened from the dream of the dreamer himself or herself. You have chosen to just relinquish the grand drama that would lead you to feel that if you hold onto anxiety that it gives life some purpose. Eventually, you'll give up the grandiose notion that you must do great things in this world in order to be happy, and you will become happiness itself. And when you become happiness itself, rest assured that grand things will be done through you. Because you are like a light that just dances in this plane and wherever you are, and I mean this as deeply and as profoundly as I can, wherever you are, miracles are taking place in the minds and hearts of those who encounter you. You may not see them visibly, but rest assured they are occurring. Because when you choose to live the happiness with a capital H, not an egoistic happiness, but just happiness, the love from which creation has come forth, right where you are, every mind that encounters you witnesses that light. How it chooses to react to its own choice, but the light is seen. And when light has been seen, it seeps in and begins to work its miracles. And it may be next week, it may be next year, and it may be next lifetime. But the mind will begin to be attracted to the light it's experienced through you. And that is why I have often said to you, and please take it deep within your heart. There is no such thing as separation, and the thoughts you choose to hold within yourself affect the whole of creation. Are you then your brother's keeper? Yes. Not out of moral sanction or moral duty. You are your brother's keeper for the simple truth that you are your brother. And the thought you choose to hold will allow your brother redemption or damnation, to use those kinds of terms, to experience a movement toward freedom or to feel held back. That is the responsibility you have, and it's not a burden. It can be done very lightly since you are the presence of light itself. Does all of that begin to make sense to you? Good. Then we are just going to sit here and bring a lot of light to this world. Are you ready to do that? Yes. Remember that right here, right now, through you, hear a voice. It seems to come through something called a body, a bag of dust, and that indeed a mind that was associated with one known as Jeshua ben Joseph seems to be directing those words. Remember what I said when we began. You are only hearing and seeing a reflection of the truth you are, which means you are talking with yourself right now, and there is only one mind here if you choose to acknowledge only Christ. Therefore, allow the eyes to close for just a moment. Imagine that by doing so you are turning away from the roar and din of the world, choosing to relinquish how you may have perceived this day. And with the eyes closed, allow the angel of breath to move through the cells of the body like a gentle stream of golden light, unlimited forever, given to you freely and eternally, as though you could ride on the crest of that golden light, that breath. For is it not written that God breathed into man the breath of life? That is how close you are right now to the one who has created all of us. And with each in-breath you are receiving life eternal, and with each out-breath allow the golden light to be extended beyond the form that you think you are, like rays from the sun that reach out to every corner of the universe. Allow images perhaps to come into your perception of ancient friends, family members, children, lovers, enemies. Imagine that you could allow the whole of mankind to come into your inner view, and still the rays of your light shine all around them, envelop them, and penetrate them. See them becoming that light itself. But do not strive at this, allow it. Feel the beauty and the simplicity and the joy of embracing the whole of creation with the love that you are. That love is eternal and unbounded, and there is not a single obstacle that can impede the extension of your love. Witness within yourself creation becoming that light. See other minds awakening and remembering. And think not it is your imagination, for you cannot imagine what you have not experienced somewhere along the way. Begin to feel that joy ever deeper and deeper as you see creation awaken to the light of its only reality. Feel that joy as though it can begin to lift you out of your chair. Feel gratitude and beauty. Say yes to that light, indeed. And if yet you think there is a single shadow left within you, right now turn it over to the light. Just turn it over. If it's a fear, a doubt, an old hurt, turn it over. It can no longer serve you to hold it. Every chain that has been upon you melted and dissolved. Light of very light, truth of all truth, and the light grows brighter, brighter, and brighter, more and more radiant. And every solar system is enveloped in your love, and it is expanding to touch even other dimensions that are not physical at all. Embrace them. Embrace all beings upon them. Imagine that you could embrace every master that has ever been. For some of you that communicate with masters on other planes, embrace them with love you are and see that they have arisen within your beauty and your truth. And look now upon all dimensions and all worlds and all time frames that have ever been and every brother or sister you have ever known, and you have known all of them, and feel the meaning of these words as yours. I am one with all life. I am one with my Creator, and I embrace every aspect of creation as myself, for I have learned the only lesson I've ever needed to learn, that there is nothing outside of me. And then in your own way, abiding in that light, simply feel the energy of eternal gratitude. Eternal gratitude. I am that light. I am that light, as it was in the beginning, is now, and forever shall be. And being that light, I choose freely, freely to begin to take on the appearance of a single personality, a single mind. And I will don the cloak of what seems to be but one body, and I will choose this time frame on a planet known as Earth. And I am the light that becomes a form that I will call myself. But from this moment forward, I will utilize that vehicle for no other purpose than to extend the infinite love that I am, and to give it to this world. Coming down then, beginning to feel the flesh of the body, delight in it. It is not your prison, it holds no power over you, it is a vehicle through which Christ can communicate. And begin now, as though for the first time, to allow the eyes to open. And as they do, look around you. Who do you see that you do not know and love? Welcome to this moment of a rather interesting drama called space and time. And you, the Word of God, have just chosen incarnation. I would call it rebirth, and that rebirth will continue to be the foundation of everything you do unless and until you choose to reach back into an illusion and bring back to yourself a perception of lack, of limitation, of fear, guilt. It is not just an exercise that bides your time, it is your own reality remembered. What do you think, Firewalker? How does it feel to be incarnated as the Word made flesh? Well, it feels like it is the only game in town. Now, have you tried others? Anyone here tried out a few games that didn't quite work out well? Freedom indeed can be expressed whenever you remember that you are not the doer or the maker of your experience, and you don't need to be. And thank God for that. But you can be that one who learns to live without effort and without planning, as your world would see planning, if you become one who begins each day remembering who you are, opening like a flower to the light that is in you and allowing that light to be your teacher and your guide. It really doesn't matter what words you use, it's the feeling and the knowingness that matters. In my language that identifies me relative to the time that I walked among you, I would simply say, Holy Father, what would you have this day before? I am your child, and therefore I am your servant, for I know that where I walk, you walk with me, and nothing is impossible to me. For of myself I could never do anything, but you, Holy Father, through me can do all things. All I need to do is to be out of your way, and each time I choose to be the presence of love, I have given up the illusion of separation, and you can live through me. This world can bring nothing to me of value, not a single thing, not an object, not a bank account. There is nothing here that holds any true value for me. Therefore, there is nothing that I can draw to myself, but there is everything that I can give to this world. For I have tasted of the only thing that holds value, love. Just love, just love. Love is all things. Love embraces all things, allows all things, trusts all things, celebrates all things, and continually gives itself away. And the arisen Christ lives each day, though in the appearance of a body, or so it would appear to others, knowing that there is not one thing this world can do to tempt you. There is nothing in it that can bring you happiness or fulfillment, because you, as the arisen Christ, have realized it is only in the giving and extension of the infinite love you are that you can receive what you have prayed for. So that makes it, you see, very, very simple. You don't need 14 hours a day of burning a certain kind of incense. You don't need 72 years to wait for the time to change. You don't have to wait for 72 years in terms of learning some foreign language filled with an infinite number of chants. You don't have to learn how to direct energy into your body. There is nothing you have to do to be who you are. Nothing. Not one single thing you have to do. None of it will bring love to you, but rather miraculously, when you simply decide to do nothing but give your love away. To be only love, no matter what other minds may choose to be or what game they may choose to play. You will find that what you have been seeking to get from the world all this time is yours now. And then indeed miracles will begin, and life can begin to shift and change, because what you experience can only be the result of what you insist on perceiving and believing in. If you believe there is lack as you perceive it in your life, it must and can only be because somewhere previously you believed that lack could exist, or perhaps worse, that it must exist for you. How could I be unlimited? And when you begin to acknowledge the truth of who you are, that alone is when you create a new vibration that changes everything. Does that make sense to you? If you seek to grow and believe, you are in lack. And you've got to work and strive to learn all the techniques so you can become plentiful and abundant. Have you ever noticed that it seems to take forever? But Jeshua, that's what almost all of us learned from our parents. So you could say almost from infancy onward we were taught that. Yes, and I know that you've just been a victim of others. Beloved friends, it doesn't matter. Understand this well. Every time you use the word but, what you are really saying is, I choose to resist my unlimitedness now, and I will find some way to explain why where I am must continue. Does that make sense to you? Do not blame your parents. Do not blame your great-great-grandparents. Do not blame your government. There isn't anyone to blame. There is just everyone to love. I don't really feel as I was blaming anyone when I said that. My meaning was only, no wonder it comes as much surprise to us that our thoughts create our abundance. It's not surprising that it's a big surprise to a lot of people. All reality seems shocking when you begin to see it. Yes, but precious friend, look and understand what I am talking about here, the power of the mind right now, as soon as the thought entered the mind. But we've been taught this. You have turned your attention to a perception that somehow others have affected where you are now. And what I am trying to share with you is that there is no one at any time who has not chosen moment by moment which perception they will take and make their own. If it were true that you are formed, let's say, by your parents, by your educational system, it would mean that people who have similar experiences, let us say being born into a ghetto and 999 out of 1,000 of them become addicted to drugs and one becomes a world leader, a teacher, doctor, if it were true that all were affected by their environment, there would not be a doctor that would arise out of that 1,000. Each brings about their experience by the choice that is made in the mind in each and every moment. The greatest lesson that you must learn is that you are free now. The power is now, not tomorrow. To insist on choosing to live only in the unlimitedness, only in vision and only in the present and not in the past, it is the only time healing can come, the only time. Therefore, precious friends, as you are learning, learn well. There can never be such a thing as an idle thought, never. You are choosing to indulge in an illusion that has limited you before and will continue as long as you choose to hold it within your mind. That is why I have said to you that vigilance is so critical, vigilance. What am I choosing to think now? Some of you indeed would laugh and chuckle because perhaps you have cursed at the person that runs the stoplight in front of you. There's no such thing as an idle thought, and though you may think you are doing it in jest, your body is responding to your judgment, and all the chemistry in it is changed immediately to respond to negative thoughts. And the thought you think is not separate from all other minds. It is so critical to play at choosing only loving and unlimited thoughts and to learn how to abide in, what we will call it here, that frequency constantly. That is the only way you can awaken the light that you may perceive as yet dormant within you, to practice in every moment to be that light. It is the only way anything changes, you see. It is the only way heaven can return to earth. For you to choose with me, to think only thoughts that are unlimited. Does that make sense to you? And you see, that's the great power. That's the gift given unto you. That no matter what has happened in the past, no matter what thoughts you have held, no matter what actions you have done, no matter what anybody's done, what your Father extends to you in every moment is the freedom to think anew, now, right now. And though you might not see it every time you have had a negative thought, if you would look back at perhaps a 2 or 3 year period or a lifetime, whatever you want to look back upon, and see it as a time of heartache or struggling or loss or what have you, it doesn't matter. All of you are doing it as looking at a movie that have brought it with you. The experience has already been dissolved in light. That is called love. You could say that your Father is like a grand street sweeper, and though your horses seem to leave little muck and mire in the street, he comes right behind you and sweeps away all of its effects and waits only for you to understand it. There isn't anything to feed guilt over, nothing to bring a heaviness upon your countenance, because the past has already been washed away. It no longer exists. And when mankind chooses to stop writing history books, it will begin to understand that the future is present now, dependent only on what thoughts are chosen now. Well, we've got to keep our armaments up because, you see, there have been wars. You hurt me once, I remember. It may have been last week, it may have been 10,000 years ago, but I remember that I am not about ready to forgive you. And then you can understand why there is something in you that doesn't feel forgiven. You are your brother, and with what measures that you mete unto them, so too shall it be meted unto you. That's how it works. Does it mean that if you judge another, someone is going to come along with something called karma and hit you over the head? You have already done it to yourself, and when you hit yourself over the head, you then prove to yourself, I must only deserve being hit over the head. Yeah, it's a tough world. Do you begin to see how all this weaves together? It is so important. Give your forgiveness to the world wholly and as quickly as you can. Let everyone off the hook. You know, all of those beans that you have hung on the hook in your basement. Good. You're going to stay right there, and I'm going to remember. Let them all go. Release them from their cross. Let them go. For as you release your brother, you have released yourself. There is no other way. When fear seems to come up to prevent you from doing something, remember, it's not even your thought. It's an echo of a past that has already been dissolved. And if there's a phone call you have been waiting to make, if there's a presentation you have been wanting to do, if there's an old friend that you've just been missing, or if there's a job you want to apply for, by all means go and do it. It's just a drama, that's all it is. You've been playing a game and you took it seriously. And part of the game has been the creation of guilt and pain and suffering, limitation and lack. And right here, right now, you could choose to put a new game piece on the board. You can choose to live unlimitedness, and you don't even have to know how to do it. That's the great thing. Does not a loving parent take their child and say, Here, I will show you how to cross the street. Your Father will show you how to cross this universe. You don't have to know how to do it. All you need to do is to give him your willingness, no matter what. It is called throwing in the towel of separation and understanding that your will is your Father's will. For there are many of you in this room who have felt the desire for abundance, what we call here material abundance, and yet you have blocked it at every turn because somewhere you have perceived that it is not really good to desire material abundance. That is just a thought in your head. Throw it out the window. Heaven waits. Heaven itself waits on your acceptance, and your brother waits on your acceptance for him of the heaven that lies within you both. Heaven waits on your acceptance. What if indeed you are the one? What if you are the one that holds the key? You are what they would call the 100th monkey. And if you choose to adopt the new perception, then suddenly, in the twinkling of an eye, the whole of mankind will sit up and go, "My goodness gracious, there is no one here but Christ." And what if you are the one? Please join me in not waiting any longer for someone else to do it. That is the whole essence of the second coming of Christ, your choice to turn the key to the kingdom of heaven that dwells within you, and to understand you don't have to know how to walk around as a living Christ. All you need is to be willing to ask before every decision, and you will have the guidance that you require. And some of you indeed can join me now and can see that as I speak those words, I do not so much see bodies, by the way. I don't find them to be very interesting. But those words met a certain resistance in some because it means giving up the game. It means assuming complete responsibility for every feeling you have and realizing completely that there is no one outside of you who can affect you unless you allow it. When your light so shines before man, before mankind, that its radiance cannot be limited, you will then know and understand, to use some biblical words, since some people seem to light them still, that though you walk through the valley of shadow and death, you need fear no evil. The rod and the staff of the love of God is in you, within you, and around you always. And there is no one there in that valley save yourself, the face of a brother or sister who asks you to help them awaken from the dream. Now, how do you do that? Well, of course, you slap them around a few times and tell them to wake up. No, you don't fix anyone. You can't fix anyone. It's impossible. All you can do is to be what you choose to teach them. That's it. And allow them to choose to see the Christ in you. For to do so will mean that they must have begun to recognize that Christ in them too, because only Christ can recognize Christ. That means that the only thing you have asked to do in this dimension is to live as though you are not an ego, and to live as though you are Christ. I can't make it any simpler and only make it more difficult. Sorry about that. What do you think? Is all of this making sense? Yes. Well, then how do you choose to live right now, this moment? Who are you? Nobody knows yet. Oh, but if I say it out loud, I feel a little self-conscious. The arisen Christ. How do you know that? I know it because I choose to live my life that way. Well, one out of the room isn't so bad. Who are you? Stop whispering. Let's go. Who is sitting next to you? What do you want to create on this earth? Heaven on earth. Well then, don't wait for somebody else to put the spade in your ground. What would it be like to live each day? When you walk into your grocery store, you are just beaming with the radiance of Christ, and someone thinks a negative thought, and you reach over and you put your hands on their shoulder and you say, "Oh, precious friend, oh no, please no." The men in the white jackets are ready to take you away. They won't come and take you away unless you fear it. What if you looked at one in the eye and say, "I know you," even if you don't know yourself? Tell them that they are doing what is called playing out or watching a rerun, and there's a new show in town. Ask them if they perhaps have failed to go to their mailbox. The invitations have been sent out, and the party is beginning. The party is beginning, and everyone is invited. That's what it's all about. It's all it's ever been about. You are the one who has been here throughout all of time and all of space, and you have danced with one another in a million different ways. If you can think of a role, you've played it, whether it be a role that could be said to be wearing a white hat or a black hat. If you can think it, you've played it. Oh, isn't that embarrassing? So who are you going to judge? Somehow, in some way, because of the love I see in you, you could say I am like one who looks upon this world and sees parched land. And then I look at each of you, and I see this infinite reservoir of the most nurturing waters that one could ever comprehend, without end and without a bottom, sparkling, clear, radiant light, such a perfect water. And all I ever really try to do is to find a way to let me, open a door and take a glass out of it, so that we together can pour it upon this world. One glass of your love is all it takes. And in everything that I've ever said to you, whether it be this odd form or the other 2003 that I am currently doing similar work with, or through any of the hands of an infinite number of healers that I also communicate and work with, whether it was a single word or act that I ever did through my Father's grace when I walked among you, nothing I've ever said or done has ever been designed for any other purpose except to help you open the floodgates to the love of Christ that lives within you. So the cat is out of the bag. As I have said to some of you, if you want to wait, I cannot wait you. So does the world need saving? No, the world is an illusion. How are you going to save it? All you are asked to do is not fix anything, whether it be a macrocosmic scale or the microcosmic scale as you would perceive it called your life. Stop trying to fix what may have occurred in the past. Simply begin to think with different thoughts. Not to say, I wish I could be unlimited, if only I could get rid of this, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's a person or a ghost. Yes, but indeed begin now to put the fullness of your attention on being the unlimitedness of the love of Christ through whom anything and everything can be accomplished. And remember, it's easy because you don't have to do it. You only have to allow it. So within 30 days, I would like you to deliver a speech in front of at least 200 people about the kingdom of heaven. Now, if you don't accomplish that, it will mean at least 10,000 more lifetimes. Oh, I know you didn't mean that. You do? Huh. Think about it, though. Begin to imagine and visualize yourself giving that talk. Feel it until it is as real as it seems to be now that you are sitting on the floor. Okay? It's your meditation for the next 30 days. And listen to the words you speak. Feel the effect of the words and realize it is the Holy Spirit speaking through you and open to it. Hear your words and watch and feel that experience as though you are indeed witnessing it and yet feeling it at the same time, okay? Don't worry, because if you think you get stuck, I'll hang a few cue cards, I believe they're called. Oh, great. Life is really very, very simple. Lament nothing that comes to you, for all that can come to you is either the result of a thought you used to think, in which case you are watching it pass by because you are no longer thinking that way, or you begin to witness the miracles which are the effects of the thoughts you've begun to learn to think. Does that make sense? Those are the only two possibilities. Think with unlimitedness, and miracles will come to you by way of your life, and you'll just be shaking your head with a smile on your face. I used to think I was limited. Well, it was a funny movie. Now, please do not think that to be unlimited means that you are going to have what you call 47 Rolls Royces in your garage. Of course, that's not quite what I'm talking about. You can abide with $5 in the pocket and be totally at peace and know that the path you are walking is absolutely perfect, and you can love every moment of it. And you are as abundant as the richest man that ever lived. But be honest with yourself. If you'd rather have 10 instead of 5, admit it and begin to do something about it by beginning to allow yourself the feeling of living in unlimitedness, referred to you in the former measurement of golden coins. That's all you're doing. It's just an energy after all. It's really no different than what makes your heart beat. It's just an energy. Those of you that have ever taken a glass of water to your lips on any day of your life, is there anyone here that has ever done that? Receiving abundance is really like drinking water. You make the choice to allow it to enter into the sphere of your experience. You may not know how, and that doesn't matter. All you need to do is to be willing to imagine, to visualize, to feel that abundance, and to ask the Father to set all things in motion so that it is created around you and through you. And then miracles happen. Perhaps a phone call from an old friend. It could happen in a million ways, but it will be there for you, isn't that right? Yes. So, what would it be like? What would it be like if you chose to step to the front of the crowd and be the leader that shows everyone else how to live in the unlimitedness of Christ? What if you got so crazy that you abandoned all your fears, or at least chose to walk through them? or so crazy that you are willing to stand in front of a crowd of 200 people and say, "Well, yes, I'm an expert on the kingdom of heaven. Here, I can show you how to create abundance. Father, how do you do this?" Why not? How can you know what your Father's will is for you? When you are truly willing to be honest about what seems to be the burning desire in your heart, and if you look at the desire, and it is not caught up with the manipulation of hurting of anybody, not the taking of anything because you think you need it, but just a burning desire that seems to have been with you no matter how often you tried to ignore it, it's a safe bet that you might as well go for it. And if you do, many miracles will come, many miracles. And what you thought was your heart's desire will have been realized to be only a stepping stone that the Holy Spirit has placed before you. Because your Holy Spirit knows what's in your heart, you see, and creates in that desire because you will be attracted to it. And as you step upon it, like a flower, it opens up, and you realize that it really meant something else, and you've become something else. Because in your pursuit of abundance, you discover that you are asked to be a teacher of God. Does all of that make sense to you? Allow yourself to step lightly and with joy upon the stepping stones that are placed before you. Not one thing arises in your day by accident. It only waits for you to turn your attention to it and embrace it and say, "Well, if this is here, there is a purpose for it." And in that moment, you hold the power to discern its purpose if you are willing to embrace it with love. Learn from it. Step upon it and go on. And everything serves. Everything serves what could be called here your becoming. For as you have lived in time and have created the dramas that would draw you into the perception of separation from God, so too now, as the arisen Christ, you allow time to be used as a device through which you witness the flowering of the light and love that you are. You walk through a magical kingdom. There is nothing realistic about this world, nothing. Someday you will understand that even the body is not realistic. You walk through a magical kingdom. Everything is being formulated for you out of the thoughts and perceptions you have held. And when you choose only God, please rest assured that everything quickens and a new power comes to form everything. And every experience that comes to you is given to you as a stepping stone, as a touchstone, if you will, that leads you evermore into the fullness of the Christ you are. Contemplate what that must mean and see how it asks you to change your perception about what you experience. Now, the grand thing is this. If you forget, all you have to do is remember, and the game goes on. And the last thing that I want to say to you before we allow the bodies to have a bit of a break, the last thing I'll say is this. It is absolutely impossible to regress on this journey once you choose to begin it. So the next time you go, "Oh God, I'm really gonna..." Well, nonsense. Pinch yourself, wake up and walk on. You can't go backward, you see, because the past has been washed away from you. There is nowhere back to step. So even if you experience doing something again, you call it the pattern that goes around in a circle. You can't seem to break it. You are not stepping backwards. You are fully choosing in the present to create that experience. It is not coming up from behind you to bite you in the butt. Take a nice deep breath, the breath of God, and exhale and let your light radiate out in all directions. And then remind yourself that after all is said and done, you are the light of the world. How about that? And even now, many of you felt in the last 29.5 seconds the descent of a like blanket of peace. And those may seem a little fantastic to some of you, to others it won't. I never come and do this work alone. I have some friends, just as you are my friends, but those don't have a body, and they come with me whenever this work is done. And that blanket, how many of you felt it? It is bestowed upon you by what you would perceive as several masters, though I am not so sure we like the term. Think of them as friends that love you deeply, and know that you are not separate from where they are, and that peace is available to you with one breath any time you choose to receive it. Know you the term, some of you, the ascended masters, perhaps the great white brotherhood. Think not that they are unavailable to you. Think not that this my beloved brother has what you call a red phone on the desk. There is no one special, and that love and that peace, that opportunity, descends on each equally. What creates the appearance of differences is the willingness to receive it and to enact it. That's all. That's the only difference. Remember and breathe the peace. Just play at it. You might even want to gather with one or two in a corner and just take a nice deep breath together and feel that blanket of peace. It's there for you. And as you say in your world, practice makes perfect. Peace be unto you, and thank you for allowing me these few moments to create a mirror for you of truth that lies within you. Amen. Short break. I want very much for each and every one of you to truly embrace this simple fact. And I speak unto you now, each individual, if you will. I give thanks to my Father for your presence. I bow down before your light and your love and your beauty. I cannot possibly find words in any language that can possibly express to you the gratitude and the love that I feel, the joy that I feel when I look upon you. It isn't what you do, it isn't what you say, it's who you are. And throughout all of eternity I have and will remain in awe at the stupendous light that you are. Thank you from the depth of my being. Thank you for the light that you bring to creation. It's a rather joyous state, you see, to be in a place where constantly, with everyone that comes into your experience, the feeling that I just expressed to you is there always. And yet, it is not a feeling that is peculiar to just me. It simply comes of itself unto any mind or any heart that is truly willing to relinquish that perceptions that have served to do nothing but veil the presence of the peace of God within you. And what I have just shared with you in words you could just as well share with anyone you saw on your street, not just as an exercise, but as a truth, a reality, what is called existence, which is really the practice of awareness, is rather incredible when every moment is lit by a fire of gratitude for the radiance of the being who is before you. Even if they are giving you what they call a ticket for moving your automobile too quickly, indeed. And as you give, you receive. So if you feel at any time there is maybe a little bit of a drying up of the river of love, find someone to give your love to. Find a way. The situation may not call for the words that I just used that I spoke to each of you individually, but find a way to give the fullness of your love to them. And that fast you will see how quickly you can give your own countenance, because as you teach, you learn, and as you give, you receive. Therein lies the whole of the laws of creation. That is why, you see, our Father receives so much, because he gives so totally of himself unto the infinite reaches of all that creation is. And therefore, God, being but love, never experiences anything but the unlimited radiance of love. For he that gives all receives all. It does seem rather simple, doesn't it? Well, enough of all that. I just wanted to express my love to you. We love you too, Jeshua, and it is received without a trace of resistance. Look well, then, for if you perceive a difference between yourself and me, could it be that perhaps there is something in you that feels it should resist, at least a little bit, the overwhelming love that is the presence of God? Resistance is what makes this world. That's a rather good line. So some of you that have been around for the past year, have you not noticed that in many ways the form of language has changed? Yes, and there are reasons for that. What needed to be said in terms of correcting certain biblical perceptions has been established. And even though what seems to be different bodies and minds are here to some degree than when we started, the message is received by all. So that as we moved along, certain walls have been melted even in those who have come for but the first time. Does that make sense to you? Yes. Now if that is true, and I assure you that it is, it means that every time you, in the course of your own life, your own experience, every time you choose to be the presence of love and to teach only love, rest assured you are extending it unto the whole of creation and uplifting it. You could say that you are like one who stands before what seems to be a very long, very high, and very thick wall, and your Father has come to you and said, "Take down the barrier between creation and myself. Here is your chisel, and here is your hammer." And you have put it up against that wall, and one thought has been, "Oh, my goodness gracious, how will I ever tear this wall down? It's 100 miles thick, 4,000 miles high, and who knows how long." And yet when you place the chisel on the wall and tap it lightly with one loving thought, the vibration is felt throughout the whole of that wall. And as you choose to be the presence of love, you are chipping away at that wall that surrounds the heart of someone on the other side of this planet. How valuable are your loving thoughts? It is that which cannot have a price tag on it. How powerful are your negative thoughts? Those of you that would envision a world transformed, a planet radiant with light in which all mankind lives as a brotherhood. Or perhaps it's time you start saying as a sisterhood. But if you understand who you are, masculine and feminine terms really don't matter much. They're just forms of language. For those of you that would envision such a world, and there are many in this room that just don't think about it, the vision is pressing upon your heart, almost so that there's a quickening. Do you know that feeling? As if light is descending down into the core of your heart, so that at times it feels it's going to burst. Do you know that feeling? Be you therefore the one willing to tap the chisel with every single loving thought that you would hold, and choose only loving thoughts. Step back just a little bit and abide in what you would call, some would call, cosmic consciousness. That's an interesting term. It only means that you are aware that separation does not exist, nowhere. And each loving thought affects the whole, and you can literally learn how to do whatever you do in your life and at the very same moment, which is truly outside of time, to hold the whole of creation in your awareness. And whether you are laying your hands on another's body, whether you momentarily seem to be blending with the mind of one individual amongst many to speak to a small room of people, friends, you can know that in that moment you are addressing or laying your hands on or giving a smile to the whole of creation. And you can literally feel the truth of that and know it. Not just as a hope, not just as a dream, but as a living reality. And as you practice that, something very miraculous happens. For when you are in relationships, and whether it be your lover, your mate, or the gas station attendant, it doesn't really matter. When you are in a relationship and you look into their eyes, you literally see the whole of creation before you, and you embrace them with the love that you are. That is how vast you are, and that experience, that reality, is really open to you in every moment. It requires only your choice to allow what you have thought to be the mundane and ordinary moments to be translated by the Holy Spirit into the means through which Christ enlightens creation. That is the power given unto each and every one of us before time began. That's how powerful you are, and all it requires is 72 lifetimes in the monastery. Oh, you've already done that, and that didn't work. All that is required is that you, in the quiet and peace of your own heart and mind, make a simple decision. I will be the presence of love. I am the one sent of my Father to share the joy of unconditional love in each moment and with every breath. That choice not only can transform your entire being, it will transform this illusory world into that which shall reflect the kingdom of heaven on earth. That choice is the second coming of Christ. That is why I said earlier that heaven waits on you. Thank God it's no longer my responsibility. What do you think? Perhaps one of these evenings as we begin and everyone is sitting in silence, and hopefully you are not expecting or looking forward, hopefully just abiding in that place. Perhaps I won't say anything at all, and we will just be Christ. But be you therefore vigilant, for you will not know the hour or the day in which I might choose to do that. And in that hour would you become impatient? Would you let the mind create thoughts? Well, I wonder what's going on. It's been 45 minutes, as Jeshua left. The one that you would call John Mark, who I prefer to call John, but that's another story. The poor thing, he will be so embarrassed. Or would you allow yourself to realize there is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, that I cannot be separate from wherever you choose to abide together in love? For where two or more are gathered in my name, guess what happens? It might be fun. It would be great transcribing. You want $20 for that booklet, right? It would be worth 1,000, so how are we all doing? Good, fine. Are you happy to be here tonight? Yes, very much. You could be out doing what they call celebrating the independence. Well, we are. Frankly, I haven't seen a whole lot of what you call independence in your culture. Interdependence in a way that really isn't all too healthy. But that's going to change. Do you know why it's going to change? Because we, the Ascended Masters, are going to make it happen. And on your next 4th of July, I'm going to descend in a chariot of fire and land on your White House lawn and take over the government. Well, I'd vote for you. Would it be okay if I run on what you call the independent ticket? The whole point of that, of course, is that there is no group of masters that does not already include you. Let no one tell you that there is some group called Ascended Masters that are so far over your head, literally and otherwise, that it will take you lifetimes to go through many initiations to become as grand as they are. It is time to let go of the myth of progression, because it is a myth born in time and therefore a language or model that has simply been used because that's all you could hear. You are already in the club. You are already in the club. And I want to let you in on a little secret. Those of us to whom many of you have given labels or allowed others to give labels to so-called Ascended Masters have just been waiting patiently for you to realize that where you sit at any moment to ask for help from us is inside the clubhouse. You're already there. Does that make sense to you? You are, and listen carefully, you are already an Ascended Master. It's already been finished. Your resistance to it comes only from the belief that that's not true. You've misperceived that the journey is already finished, and the joke's on you. You are already the light. It doesn't matter what shape or form your body is in. It doesn't matter what age you are. You are an Ascended Master. You're already awakened. The game is over. You're just watching a rerun. I know that seems almost simplistic, but anyone who chooses, even in this moment, to accept that fully realizes that I'm not kidding. There's nowhere you are going, nowhere at all. You are already back home where the long, long journey that's never been began. I and my Father are one, and there's nothing to do except allow that love that you are to be given away in any number of infinite forms. If you want more forms and more ways in which to give it away, just ask your Father. He will provide them to you. Oh, but if only I could become a great artist, then I'd be happy. Be happy, and you are a great artist. What could take a more delicate touch, a more creative stroke than to master the art of being the presence of happiness itself? Yes. Well, so here we are together in this experience called creation. What on earth shall we do with it? Anyone have any idea? First, let's clean it up and make everyone happy. Now, let's play while we're doing it. Let's give away God's love to one another. Well, indeed, play well and laugh well while you are repainting the canvas. That's all you're doing, repainting the canvas. In your own life, you can repaint the canvas any time you want to start. I don't like that color. A little boring. So change it. Indeed, play and play well, and yes, of course, play fair. So in all that I have had my peace this evening, actually I have my peace always, but there is really not much else to be said. But if you have questions, we can entertain them now. I don't mean to make light of a question that someone feels that this is a serious matter to them. And yet, all we can do is entertain questions until the soul itself comes to the point of being willing to acknowledge that it is the answer it seeks. I regret to inform you that I have never answered a single question in a way that has made any difference whatsoever. It is the willingness of the soul to accept what is already known, since all I do is read the book in your heart, and I just know how to read well, and when you receive it and go, yes, that's when change occurs. Does all that make sense to you? Yes. You have been taught that I was created to be the Savior of the world. Actually, my father said, "Do you know Jeshua ben Joseph? I hope you don't mind, but I am just going to make you into a mirror. Go around and let people see their reflection. I know it sounds a little boring, it's not too royal or grand, but that's what I want you to do." So I said, "Fine, make me a mirror." And he did, and I said, "Whoa, look at that." The first time I became a mirror with nothing to do except reflect, and it's not a very boring way to exist. So do you have any questions, or better yet, do you have any statements? Jeshua, I have a question since nobody is jumping up to say something here. In what we perceive as time and what we perceive as having lived many lifetimes, what the soul learns in a lifetime does not seem to be carried forward into the next lifetime on a conscious level. Does that make sense? I really want to know if our souls, as we go through lifetimes, if our souls remember the truth that we learned in each lifetime, and if we do, does it impact our consciousness in the next lifetime or many lifetimes? Now, we are going to give you an answer in two different ways. First, what the Son decrees is. What does that mean? You are the one. You are the one. And what you decree, that is, what you select to perceive and believe, will be your experience. That means that if you hold the perception of a model that souls go through many, many lifetimes and learn lessons that are added to their luggage, and they carry them with them so they are progressively becoming wiser, then that will be your experience. And you will believe it because you have wanted to choose the experience of a progression through time. So far, so good? Yes. Therefore, if you ask me, given this model, does this follow? What I will say to you is, do you want it to follow, that the soul gains knowledge that is carried? Well, now I'm confused. I thought I understood you to say many times in our evenings that we have gone through countless lifetimes because we never get it straight. Well, that's absolutely true, but that does not deny the fact that you are the one choosing on insisting that you are a soul that has gone through many lifetimes and haven't got it right. That's what the whole point of this evening talk has been, that you are the one clinging to that perception, and I am the mirror that reflects it back to you. Do you see? No, I'm completely lost. Good. Now we can make some real progress. I have indeed talked about other lives. I have even used the model of language about progressively getting on with it. But in all cases in which I have done it, it is a teaching tool given to one to whom I am speaking, or perhaps to several in the group, because it is a language that they were insisting on seeing things with. Do you see? So we only live progressive lifetimes if we believe we live progressive lifetimes. Yes, and all of that is still within the realm of the dream. Your reality is that you are the only begotten Son of God, and you exist wholly outside of time. You embrace the whole of creation, and it arises within you, and the model and the perception of lifetimes is part of that which has arisen within the mind of Christ as a free choice. It is like looking at clouds in the sky and deciding that you see animals or what have you. You are the one creating it. You are the one creating the clouds. Even your scientists know that there is no such thing. That is, they are created according to your perceptions, according to this apparatus that you have created. Does that make sense? Yes. Precious friend, come to understand that awakening will never come as long as you insist on adhering to a model in which you see yourself as having had a beginning, going through a chain of lifetimes, getting better and better, hopefully, except for the time that you regress. Do you understand what I am saying? It doesn't mean it's not okay to have fun talking and pretending about all these incredible lifetimes you've had, but if you want to be Christ, which is to accept who you are, you're going to give up that old model because Christ abides in what is eternal and timeless, changeless and unlimited forever. And that is really the goal of every soul that perceives itself progressing through time, to become timelessness, to become unlimited. Does that make sense? That's what's pressing against you, you see. It's the feeling of being constricted. That's what you are trying to overcome. You may interpret it in a million different ways, but what you are seeking is to be unlimited, and it won't happen until you are willing to begin with a new perception. I am unlimited now. And with that, what unfolds is the releasing of every perception that is not in accord with unlimitedness. I have said many times that you live the life of every being. That is reality. It is a part of the highest truth, if you will, that can possibly be uttered. And when you truly rest and let go of that resistance, you will find incredibly that that is true. Some have said to me, "Boy, you seem to know me so well, better than I know myself." Only because I choose my unlimitedness, and therefore I embrace you. I use the word brother and friend because it is a way of communicating at a place where your mind still is. Precious friend, this whole gathering tonight has been about the power of perception. Actually, we started a little while ago, even last week. The power of perception is what creates what you experience, and the only difference between where you are and where you think I am is that I choose to perceive only unlimitedness, while you have chosen to perceive that unlimitedness is something you will gradually grow into once you have learned all your lessons. And that's perfectly okay. Just enjoy the journey. What would happen if you were to begin to constantly practice the perception that you are unlimited now? That everything you see, every brother, every sister, every blade of grass is arising within you. So what I'm actually getting is that the whole concept of reincarnation is part of the dream. Exactly. Right where you are already home. You are not the body, you are not that personality your parents told you that you were. You are that consciousness, that awareness, that love, that vast light in which all of creation is arising. And the whole and the only begotten child or offspring of God is eternally one. Where else can you possibly find a greater freedom than to realize that there is nothing outside of you, but there is everything inside of you? When you lay your head on a pillow at night and you dream countless dreams, when you awaken in the morning, don't you realize it just took place within your mind? All of this is occurring within the mind, the one infinite mind that is Christ. And the dream is shifting. I have called it elsewhere the transference or the translation of an unhappy dream into a happy dream. The reflection of heaven on earth is still part of the dream, but it will reflect perfectly what your reality is, and that is why at the moment creation itself will no longer be required. What you call creation manifest forms in time. It is very difficult to talk about what will be like. In fact, that isn't possible because it transcends the dream itself. O precious and holy Christ, you are eternal. There has never been a time that you have not existed. There has never been a world that have not sojourned through. You are the one that has made it all up, every lifetime. Know you that called the Book of Life? It is a term from your Judeo-Christian religion. You are the Book of Life. That's who you are. That is why when two minds come together and are willing to accept their enlightenment, there is really hardly anything to do but have a very good laugh and create from the infiniteness of your being, to play in the drama and choose to play with unlimitedness when you realize you have been playing with limitation. I once said unto some of you within the drama of the dream, "Fear not, for I shall be with you always." And those of you that were a little bit attached to that aspect of the dream have clung on to it. Some of you still hold that your greatest sense of identity is who you were then. And when I said, "Fear not, for I shall be with you always," I did so with a twinkle in my eye, for I can hardly be anywhere else. And when I say I've waited patiently, it means that I simply sit on a park bench in eternity, waiting for you who are in the bus in time to choose to stop and get off and sit down with me. Is all of that making sense? It is rather important. So it's over. The time is at hand. I have never ceased weaving myself in and out of your dreams and dramas to whisper in your ear, "Precious one, remember, remember." Come home means nothing else than to open the eyes of your heart and realize the truth of who you are. Has the drama seemed long and vast? Oh yes, but the more you choose to identify with your unlimitedness, the more the weight of your dream is forgotten. Just as when you open your eyes in the morning and for a moment you shake your head and say, "Oh my goodness," and your heart is still palpitating, you know that feeling, and then you realize, wait a minute, I'm just sitting in my bed. And by the time you get up and take a shower and have a bite to eat, you have forgotten what you have dreamed. Is that not true? Yes. That's what awakening is like. When it first hits you, you go, "My goodness, how amazing. I can't even put it into words." But by and by, you forget all the weight of the dream, and you actually become better and better at finding ways to communicate, to teach in an artful way that prods the mind of your brothers and sisters, which are really but aspects of your own mind, into the recognition of who you are. But even that is part of the dream. Miracles are valuable only within a dream, and the choice is simple. And I've used this analogy before, and when I have, some have smiled, some have chuckled. It's actually quite literal. It is as though every moment you are walking up to one of what you would call one of your movie theaters, which has many movies going on at the same time on different screens. You select which ticket to buy. That's really how simple it is. One of the movies has been that you've always born once and you're going to die, and thank God that God sent his only begotten Son to die on the cross and save you from your sins. And there are many that cling to the movie and love it, and that's perfectly okay. one of the movies that I am an infinite soul, and boy, have I gone through a million lifetimes, and oh my goodness, when I was in Egypt and all the rest. That too is a movie that many would go cling to. But your reality is simply this. You are the only one standing outside the theater, and so much power is given to you that you can watch them all at once without buying a ticket. You can allow all of them. You can embrace all of them. You can look at the people that are sitting in the little rows entranced by the movie, and you can love them into awakening by being the one who is awake. Does all of that make sense? And that is what you call to do. Now, who is doing the calling? You are calling yourself. Exactly. You will awaken to your own call and no one else's. And if you are here in this room, it's because you have at least begun to hear and answer your own call. And I am here, but the aspect of you that is mirror of the deepest truth that lies within you. And you brought me forth. Whew, try preaching that on a Sunday morning. You might have to say, oops, wrong theater. Make sure you duck before the eggs are thrown. No, my dream is so important. I have to insist that my dream is real. Everybody else's is false. A dream is a dream is a dream, and nobody is doing better than anyone else if they are still dreaming. Have you ever had that thought that perhaps some of you have said, you know, a long time ago I used to believe this certain way, but now I know I'm really an infinite soul that's been incarnated a million times. And you believed you made progress. I'm sorry to say that one is either dreaming or one chooses to be awake. There is no other choice and nothing else is occurring. Some of you have been taught, well, there are gray areas. In this sense, there is but black and white, on or off. Love or fear is another way to put it. And therefore I echo to you your own call to choose to be awake now. And now is all there is. Have you ever played the little game during the course of a day, every hour, stopping and asking yourself, where are you and what time it is? You are always here, and it is always now. And the very same choice is in front of you now as was in front of you when you were a priestess in Egypt, a warrior in Strep, a yogi in a cave, a monk in a monastery, a drunk in a western town. Sorry about that one. And it's the same choice that is right in front of you now. Will I choose to be awake? Do you see that we are coming to within the perception of the dream? This is the highest form of teaching that can be given because there is nothing beyond it that can be put into words. It's the last level, if you will. If you want to play that game, it is the last level. And this is what you are coming to because you have chosen to awaken to your own call, to hear it and to follow it. Some of you have heard me say that the bell has been rung. I didn't ring it, you did. Or another level, we rang it together. And as you go out into your journey, really think about this for a moment. You know your journey called your lifetime. Aren't those really very much related to the body? Is it not the body that gets into this car instead of that car and into this bed instead of that bed, that eats this instead of that and all the rest? The mind that you are is embracing all such journeys and all dramas, and that is what again you must come to allow yourself to remember. Those of you that have studied my little work called A Course in Miracles will remember this. The only lesson you have to learn is that there is nothing outside of you. That's it. Learn that, and the game is over. Does that bring an end to time? Will the body just crumble to dust? Who cares? Who cares? When you are awake, you are awake. And if the drama goes on or if the drama ends, who cares? When you are so busy being the presence of love and giving it away, who cares? Who cares if there is going to be an earthquake tomorrow? Who cares if the earth is going to flip on its axis? Who cares? It is just a drama. And you are too busy delighting in being loved to take on a drop of seriousness about it. Do you understand that it's a level of freedom that allows some of you to walk upon the hot coals called the fire walking? That's the same freedom. You just haven't allowed yourself to recognize that that's the same level of freedom that I manifest when I made a bit of a dramatic appearance. It's the same thing. And every time you walk through a ring of fear to embrace your brother and sister as yourself and give them your love, you have done the same thing that I did when I allowed them to crucify me. I walked through the ring of fear that is nothing more than a perception, that having nails driven through physical hands could somehow separate me from God. And I demonstrated that this is not true. And if that ring of fear can't separate you from God, there is no ring of fear that can separate you from the love that you are. Whenever you are in a situation and you feel a little bit of constriction and you have something in your heart that you are burning to share, or whatever it might be, what you are feeling is a little ring of fear, and that's all. And it's a blessing. It is such a blessing. My goodness, you've confronted a million times in your dreams, and all you have to do is walk through it, and it begins to shatter like pieces of glass falling out of a window so that the breeze can blow through. Fear is a blessing. Walk through it. Those of you that have walked on the hot coals know perfectly well what I am saying. Those of you that have ever allowed someone to kiss you with passion know what I am saying. Remember that first kiss? My goodness, you've all walked through these rings of fear so many times, that's old hat. And the only thing that now prevents you from walking through what you think are your rings of fear is that you are choosing to perceive it as a wall of 100 miles thick. And as a curse instead of a blessing, that's the only difference. You begin to get the freedom of it all. Good. So now I can return to the place from whence I have come, sitting at the right hand of God, surveying all below me, seeking out the poor and wretched sinners who have need of me to save them. Boy, aren't I hot stuff. I think I'll just rest in reality and be right with you in your own heart throughout all of eternity, as an aspect of yourself that is your brother and your friend as long as the happy dream is necessary. They once tried to get rid of me and it didn't work. And now you can tell your friends Christ has indeed returned because that mind is awakened within you. And so if one comes and says, "Do you believe in the second coming?" Say, "Well, of course. Behold, I stand before you." In other words, lighten up and have some fun. So what I am going to ask you to do now, tomorrow, this is very important. I want you to do whatever and only what you truly want to do. Think about it. So right away, you see, we've collaborated to create some rings of fear. And if you are willing to accept them as a blessing, you can walk through it. Just use tomorrow as the one day that you are choosing to do only what you truly, from the depth of your being, want to do. I wonder what that might mean. It will be a very interesting day. Are you willing to try it out? And if some of you have a certain work that you go to that inwardly you are not so pleased with, if in the morning when you wake up what you really want to do is to go sit on a rock overlooking the ocean, call your employer and tell him that something's come up. You don't have to tell him that awakening has come up, and do it. Go walk through your fear and sit on a rock. Now, will consequence come from that? Well, perhaps. Are you willing to really walk through your ring of fear? Are you willing to let the illusion shatter and allow your life to be reformed by the one who has sent you forth? Oh my goodness, it's entirely up to you, so keep that in mind. Love one another as your Father has first loved you, and he has loved you with unlimitedness and with joy. He sees the perfection of your light wherever you are. You are free to don the cloak of time and yet be beyond time. You are the one that comes to bring light to this world. You are infinite. You are eternal. You are the beauty. You are the beauty of every ray of light that dances 1,000 diamonds across the waters of this planet. You are the beauty and the light of every star. You are the vastness and the silence and the power of space in which all things have arisen in your little physical universe. You are the brightest of colors and the deepest of tones. You are the perfect melody. You are the song, the instrument and its composer, and you are the one that delights in the song. You are all that I am, and we are one. Christ eternal, unbounded oceans of love, light and perfection, perfection. You are the prodigal son that has journeyed through all of time and all of space and all worlds, and now has returned to your Father's sacred place. Start chowing down on the food and the abundance that's on the table, for the feast has been prepared for you. The time is at hand, and the journey is over. Welcome home. Welcome home, precious and holy friend. Peace be unto you as you dance your light into this world and work with me. Play with me at translating the unhappy dream into the happy dream. Each of you is a miracle worker because the miracle has been accepted in you, by you. I and my Father are one. Peace be unto you. And indeed heaven and earth have been joined in you and extended as far from the east to the west. Amen. End of Awakening.